Welcome to the Johnny Fongo Show. I am Johnny Fongo. It is April 10th. We're listening to the weekend recap show here at Johnny Fongo. My show is basically about sharing my research in the cannabis sector, particularly publicly traded companies. You know, we're going to look at everything cannabis, THC, CBD, hemp, and everything in between. Now, some of the stories we look at are going to be of companies that are not publicly traded yet. Okay. First off, I am not a financial advisor, just a regular guy. Big fan of the plant, big fan of investing, big fan of trading, and a big fan of research. So I hope you enjoy the information I share here. Any stock or company I talk about is not a recommendation to buy it. Okay. First off, it's more a recommendation to, learn a little bit more about it if it fits into your strategy. With that being said, let's get to it because we've got a lot of news to look at here this Saturday. A lot of stuff going on in the cannabis sector. We're going to do a little rundown here real quick with some information we found from Benzinga. We're going to start off here. Looks like Mercer Park Brand Acquisition Corp. On the OTCQX. You can find them at MRCQF. They are going to acquire vertically integrated California cannabis operator Glass House Group for $56 million. The deal implies a $1.24 billion equity valuation and approximate enterprise valuation of $691 million. Curaleaf Holdings, OTCQX CURLF, purchased European operator EMMAC Life Services, EMMAC Life Services. The U.S.-based company agreed to pay $50 million in cash and $17.5 million in stock, worth roughly $260 million. In addition, Curaleaf teamed up with an institutional investor to secure $130 million in financing for further expansion of Curaleaf International. Meanwhile, Canopy Growth Corporation, TSX Weed, W-E-E-D, the NASDAQ, you can find that at CGC, announced it will buy Supreme Cannabis Company. TSX, you can find that at FIRE, F-I-R-E, OTCQX, that is SPRWF. I've heard about Supreme for a long time, never had any action on them. Looks like this deal is going to go for about $345 million. That's what they're going to get Supreme for. The deal follows Canopy Growth's purchase last week of cannabis brand Ace Valley. They are on a shopping spree right now, folks. Watch out. They're going to buy you up. Let's look at the ETFs real quick. Over the 5 trading days of this week, the ETF MG Alternative Harvest ETF, the MJ ticker, lost 2.6%. Advisor shares Pure Cannabis ETF, YOLO, Y-O-L-O, tumbled 3.6%. Advisors share Pure U.S. Cannabis ETF, MSOS, dropped 1.5%. The Cannabis ETF, THCX, slipped 1.55%. The Amplify Seymour Cannabis ETF, CNBS, dropped 2%. So, yeah, everybody kind of had a down week this week in the cannabis sector. A lot of them. I know Tilray went down somewhat. Looks like Trulieve Cannabis Corporation. On the CSE, it is TRUL. On the OTC, it is TCNNF. Announced a marketed public offering of its shares. The company opted to sell 5 million subordinate voting shares in the United States and Canada under an underwritten public offering at a price of $50 per share, Canadian, or $39.63 U.S. Total proceeds before deductions, commissions, and other expenses are expected to come in at approximately $198 million. Okay, in the policy and advocacy section here, we're looking at Virginia to become the first state in the South to legalize adult-use cannabis after the state's lawmakers approved several changes to the cannabis bills, SB 1406 and HB 2312, proposed by Virginia Governor Ralph Northam. The two bills would create a statutory timeline for the legalization of the commercial cannabis market in the Old Dominion. and also enable the possession and growing of cannabis by adults. The personal use provisions of the law to take effect on July 1st, 2021, instead of January 1st, 2024, which was originally passed by lawmakers. That's great. Illinois hit another record in marijuana sales, surpassing 100 million in March. According to the State Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, a total of 2,315,000 marijuana items worth 355 million were sold over the period. Texas lawmakers unanimously voted for a medical cannabis expansion bill in the Public Health House Committee. With the committee's passage, the bill is now moved to the Calendars Committee to be scheduled for a vote by the House of Representatives. The medical cannabis bill, HB 1535, sponsored by Chairwoman Stephanie Click, proposes adding PTSD for veterans only, cancer and chronic pain to the list of health conditions that qualify patients for treatment with medical cannabis. Furthermore, the bill would increase the THC cap for medical products from 0.5 to 5%. 0.5? My goodness. You ain't getting no THC. That's crazy. Come on, Texas, get with it. All right. A new coalition dubbed the Cannabis Freedom Alliance was launched, backed by right-wing billionaire Charles Koch, whatever his freaking name is, and criminal reform advocate Weldon Angelos, alongside Americans for Prosperity, the political advocacy group founded by the Koch brothers, the Reason Foundation, a libertarian think tank, the Global Alliance for Cannabis Commerce, a cannabis trade organization, the Weldon Project, a non-profit that fights for the release of those incarcerated for cannabis offenses. Okay, so they're all working for the same goal. All right, earnings report. So we're just going to run down through a list of these guys. Planet 13 Holdings, OTC, QX, PLNHF. Verano Holdings, VRNO on the CSE, VRNOF on the OTC. Let's see. And Planet 13 looks like it's generated $23.8 million in the first 3 months of 2021. March revenue amounted for $9.7 million, representing its 6-month record. Verano reported its revenue amounted to $335 million in fiscal 2020, representing a 196% year-over-year increase. Kushco Holdings, OTCQX, is KSHB, generated $32.9 million in revenue in the second quarter, representing a 23% sequential increase and a 9% year-over-year growth. Schlang Worldwide Incorporated, CSE, you can find them SLNG on the OTCQB. It is SLGWF. Released preliminary, unaudited, full year and fourth quarter 2020 financial results with quarterly revenue of Canadian 9.6 million, 7.7 million US, compared to Canadian 8.7 million in the same period of 2019. Agrify Corporation, NASDAQ, AGFI. Full disclosure, I do have AGFI in my portfolio. Announced Q4 and year-end financial results. Full year 2020 revenue nearly tripled year-over-year to $12.1 million. All right, great news on all those fronts. Looks like everybody's working hard. Finances and M&A. IM Cannabis, IMCC. NASDAQ IMCC continues to strategically expand in Canada with its second acquisition of 2021. This week, it reached a definitive agreement to acquire MYM Nutraceuticals and its licensed producer subsidiary, Highland Growth, for 85 million Canadian, 67.6 million US. Trulieve acquired 3 Pennsylvania-based medical marijuana dispensaries for $60 million in cash and stock. Intercure Limited, on the TASE, it's INCR, doing business as Canadoc, is poised to acquire medical cannabis brand Better Holdings for $35 million. Philo raised $30 million via an oversubscribed Series B round, co-led by JW Asset Management and Sol Global. Organigram Holdings, OGI, on the NASDAQ purchased the Edibles and Infusions Corporation for $22 million. Consortium Incorporated, OTCQB, you can find them at CNTMF, secured some $12 million in financing through a sale of roughly 17.4 million of its units at 70 cents per unit. Akerna, NASDAQ, you can find them at KERN, closed its acquisition with Viridian Sciences. All right, so that kind of wraps up a lot of news there in the cannabis world for this week. A few more other things to look at here. Looks like Orange County, New York's Industrial Development Agency, approved local financial incentives for cannabis company Green Thumb Industries, GTBIF, to build a marijuana cultivation and manufacturing facility. Green Thumb plans to buy the remaining 8 lots covering around 40 acres at the Warwick Valley Office and Technology Corporate Park to construct a state-of-the-art cultivation and manufacturing facility. Kronos Group, NASDAQ CRON, backed hemp and cannabis licensed producer Natura is exporting THC from Colombia to the United States. The shipment was imported by California's Biopharmaceutical Research Company and was approved by the U.S. DEA and Colombia's National Narcotics Control Board. Nice little global story there. Stigman Grow and its parent company, Cannabis Capital Incorporated, signed a third-party production agreement with Sundial Growers, SNDL, on the NASDAQ to manufacture several of Sundial's hydrocarbon concentrates. Okay. We may have discussed that one earlier in the week. All right, so that runs down pretty much the week in cannabis. Just some short stories. We're going to jump in to a couple full stories here we want to talk about. We're going to have Mia talk about this one about Compass Pathways and Mind Medicine and Midasine Innovations Group Incorporated, which we just talked about Midasine the other day. This is an interesting story pertaining to those 3 companies. Mia, please take it away.
How this psychedelic company could lead a turnaround for the sector. Compass Pathways plc, NASDAQ, CMPS, is often viewed as the leader in the psychedelic sector, with smaller companies such as Mind Medicine, OTC, MEMETF, and Midasine Innovations Group Inc., OTC, MYCOF, often following its moves. After reaching an all-time high of $61.69 on December 14, Compass Pathways consolidated for 7 weeks before making another big push to the upside on February 22. After failing to reach a new high on the push, it's been in a sharp decline, plummeting 37% over the past 6 weeks. The sector may be in for a turnaround, however, as Compass Pathways stock is starting to flash bullish signals. The Compass Pathways chart. On March 30, Compass Pathways broke up through the sloping downward trend line that had been pinning it down since February 22. The stock now looks to be completing a bull flag between 2 key areas, above a support level at $35.24 and below an overhead resistance level of $40.83. If the stock can break above the top trend line of the bull flag, it has room to move to $40.83 before a possible area of consolidation. On Friday, Compass Pathways looked to be completing its 10th daily candle in a bull flag pattern, with the first 6 candles in the pattern creating the pole, and the last 4 candles creating the flag. Because there is a retracement in a bull flag pattern, traders and investors may be looking to buy the dip at the bottom of the flag before Compass Pathways stock reacts to the pattern and makes a bullish move upwards. Compass Pathways is trading above the 8-day exponential moving average, EMA, but below the 21-day EMA. The 8-day EMA is starting to curl upwards, which could push the share price up. If Compass Pathways breaks up above the bull flag channel, the 8-day EMA will cross back above the 21-day EMA, which would be bullish.
Subversive Acquisition LP announces extension of permitted timeline for completion of its qualifying transaction. Subversive Acquisition LP, TSX, SVX.U, NEO, SVX.U, OTCQX, SBVRF, SVX, announced today that the date by which SVX has to consummate its qualifying transaction is extended to August 31, 2021, the extension. On January 26, 2021, SVX announced its qualifying transaction to combine with Intercure Limited, DBA Canndoc, TACE, INCR, Israel's leading cannabis company, the business combination. Canndoc, a wholly owned subsidiary of Intercure Limited, is Israel's largest licensed cannabis producer. On April 6, 2021, unit holders approved the business combination, with over 89.36% of the votes cast in favor of the plan of arrangement pursuant to which the business combination will be effected. On April 7, 2021, SVX obtained the final order of the British Columbia Supreme Court approving the plan of arrangement. Closing of the business combination is expected to occur as soon as practicable after the outstanding conditions to closing are met. In connection with the extension, 13.8 million restricted voting units of SVX have been deposited for redemption. SVX will redeem these units at a redemption price of approximately $10.04 per unit.
All right, thank you, Guy. Very informative story there. I want to take a minute to just reach out and thank everyone that is listening. We do have some new listeners here from quite a varied area. I'd like to thank all the people in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Honolulu, Hawaii, Sydney, Australia, Plainville, Massachusetts, Olathe, Kansas, Lawton, Oklahoma, Eastland, Texas, Napanee, Indiana, Perry, Georgia, St. John's, Canada, and Washington, D.C. All you folks, I appreciate you tuning in and listening. I hope you are enjoying the show. Just sharing my knowledge, sharing my research that I come across in my daily routine of trading cannabis stocks. Now, I want to just mention that we do have a social media platform here with the Johnny Fongo Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Please feel free to reach out and like us, friend us, and with the podcast, please feel free to follow us. Like us, subscribe to us wherever you can. That does help our numbers. We do have a Patreon page if you'd like to check that out and help support the podcast more. We would definitely appreciate that. Feel free to look at that as well. I say this every podcast. I really enjoy doing this and getting the word out to like-minded people. Now, granted, this podcast is a very niche subject. Not a great deal of people are, I'll take that back. More and more people are now investing in cannabis and seeing the potential. And there's a great deal of potential still. I mean, you've heard people say that the industry is still in its infantile stage, and it very much is. And I've been tracking the industry since 2012, since Washington and Canada or Colorado legalized for their recreational sales. And for about a year, I bought a bunch of stuff that either went down or went sideways. And at that time, back then, you could really only find about 20 stocks that you could actually get. And a lot of them were not worth anything, although because they had something to do with cannabis, they rocketed up. And then in 2014, when you saw the lines in Denver, Colorado, and all over Colorado with people waiting in line to get their legal marijuana, you couldn't pick a bad stock back then. I don't know if anybody out there was playing that sector at that time. I was, and I was having a great time doing it. So I've been at this for a while, and I just want to share what I come up with on a regular basis. That's what this program is all about. So we're going to get back into this with a story about Common Citizen partners up with the Sherbinskis to grow cannabis in Michigan. We're going to bring Guy back in for this one. Take it away, bud.
Common Citizen partners up with Sherbinski's to grow its cannabis in Michigan. Detroit-based Common Citizen and San Francisco-based Sherbinski's have launched a partnership for Common Citizen to grow Sherbinski's world-famous cannabis strains in Marshall, Michigan. Sherbinski's cannabis flower will be available for sale in Common Citizen's retail locations starting April 8. Common Citizen will be the first cannabis business outside California to sell our world-famous cannabis flower, Sherbinski's founder Mario Guzma told Benzinga. This goes far beyond an agreement to sell our cannabis. Common Citizen and Sherbinski's share a commitment to giving back to the communities we serve, including supporting communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the criminalization of cannabis. We also share a commitment to ending stigma around cannabis and educating the public about its many wellness benefits. Common Citizen CEO Michael Elias called this a historic day celebrating the arrival of Sherbinski's to his company's home state. We are excited to grow the popular gelato strains at our state-of-the-art cannabis greenhouse in Marshall, and look forward to a long-lasting, cross-country partnership. With a shared focus on people and product, we are honored to introduce Michiganders to this high-quality cannabis to serve the unique needs of our customers, he said.
All right, thank you, Guy. Great story. Michigan, neighboring state. That's exciting to hear. Next up, TerraTech Corporation announces a new board member. We're going to bring in Aria for this story.
TerraTech Corp announces new board member. TerraTech Corp, OTCQX, TRTC, TerraTech, or the company, today announced the appointment of Tiffany Davis to its board of directors. Tiffany Davis has over 20 years of experience as a financial professional working as an executive in the cannabis sector, and prior to that, in consulting and private equity. Ms. Davis currently serves as Chief Executive Officer and Chief Financial Officer of Generation Alpha, and prior to her appointment as CEO in October 2019, was Generation Alpha's Chief Operating Officer from February 2018. From 2016 through 2017, Ms. Davis worked as a senior executive for a U.S.-based cannabis consulting group supporting legal grows, assisting in license applications, developing programs for cultivators, business structuring for medical dispensaries, including developing M&A opportunities, and development of plans for several cannabis startup ventures. Beginning in 2012 into 2016, Ms. Davis worked as a group vice president for a U.S.-based private equity group, performing due diligence tasks resulting in placing hundreds of millions of dollars in equity and debt instruments. From 2009 to 2011, Ms. Davis was a manager of corporate advisory for Grant Thornton, focusing on accounting and supply chain services during the automotive crisis in the U.S., specifically on the Chrysler turnaround project. From 2005 to 2008, Ms. Davis worked for an international technology sector company with $500 million in revenues as a vice president of special projects for an automobile parts sourcing project in India from the company's headquarters in Chicago, Illinois. Ms. Davis received her BS from DePaul University in 2002 and an MBA from University of Chicago Graduate School of Business in 2009.
Okay, thank you, Ari. Nice story. Congratulations. That sounds like TerraTech is getting a great addition to the board. Next up, we just spoke about this earlier. Israel-based IM Cannabis continues Canadian expansion. Aria, will you come back and talk about this for us, please?
Israel-based IM Cannabis continues Canadian expansion with $67.6 million MYM Nutraceuticals acquisition. Multi-country medical and recreational cannabis operator, IM Cannabis, CSE, IMCC, NASDAQ, IMCC, continues to strategically expand in Canada with its second acquisition of 2021. The company announced this week it reached a definitive agreement to acquire MYM Nutraceuticals and its licensed producer subsidiary Highland Growth. The acquisition is expected to close before the end of 2021 and is valued at 85 million Cordobas, $67.6 million. It's intended to further expand IMC's presence in the Canadian market, broadening its premium, and super premium product portfolio for both recreational and medical cannabis customers. The company also confirmed it intends to leverage its Canadian acquisitions of Highland Growth and JWC to fulfill international demand for premium indoor-grown cannabis products, especially in Israel and Germany, where IMC has a strong presence and patient base. This acquisition is consistent with our M&A practice of acquiring high-potential and profitable cannabis companies that complement our current operations, contribute to our financial strength, and increase shareholders' value, Oren Schuster, the CEO of IM Cannabis, told Benzinga. Our long-term goal is to become one of the global leaders in the recreational and medical cannabis sector, and this acquisition is another important milestone on this path.
All right, thank you, Arya. Very nice story there. We're going to look at Mercer Park Brand Acquisition Corp. and Glasshouse Group announced business combination to create the largest cannabis brand building platform in California. That's exciting news. Okay. We're going to bring Clara in to talk about this one real quick. Take it away, Clara.
Mercer Park Brand Acquisition Corp. and Glasshouse Group announced business combination to create the largest cannabis brand building platform in California. Mercer Park Brand Acquisition Corp., NEO, BRND.A.U, X, MRCQF, BRND, a special purpose acquisition company, SPAC, with the intent to focus on branded product businesses in cannabis and/or cannabis adjacent industries, has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire Glasshouse Group, Glasshouse, or GH Group, or the company, a vertically integrated, California-based cannabis company, and all related assets for total consideration of approximately $567 million. It is a condition of closing the business combination that the resulting company's shares will be listed on the NEO exchange, under the ticker symbol GLASU. Subject to the satisfaction of all required conditions, the transaction is expected to close in the first half of 2021. When we formed Mercer Park BRND, we aimed to create a platform that could launch the first national cannabis brands in the United States, said BRND Chairman Jonathan Sandelman. We view successful cannabis brand building as a combination of four factors: the ability to control quality biomass at a large scale, produce at the most competitive costs, offer the highest quality products, and deliver the best value proposition to consumers. This took us to California with its ideal growing climate and community of talented and experienced growers, and ultimately to Glasshouse Group, and this incredible portfolio of assets and talent. Glasshouse has a track record of excellence across all four of these drivers, and has established a top-ranked flower brand in one of the most competitive cannabis markets in the world. Combined with the proposed combination with the Southern California greenhouse asset and 17 proposed Element 7 retail licenses, Glasshouse Group is poised to become the largest, vertically integrated brand building platform in California, the world's largest cannabis market. Glasshouse Group transaction highlights. Cultivation. Glasshouse currently operates a cultivation footprint of over 500,000 feet, producing over 110,000 pounds of dry flower biomass per year. Glasshouse also has an agreement to acquire an additional 5.5 million feet state-of-the-art Southern California greenhouse, an agricultural producer that will transition in phases to cannabis cultivation. This additional capacity is expected to increase Glasshouse's current footprint to up to approximately 2.5 million feet by 2023. The company's total, targeted long-term footprint of 6 million feet, is expected to be by far the largest cultivation capacity in California. Glasshouse Farms, the company's flagship flower brand for the everyday cannabis consumer, launched in early 2020, reaching 4% market share, and rising from number 63 to number 2 on BDS statewide ranking by year-end 2020. Strong momentum. In 2020, Glasshouse grew revenue 185% year-over-year to $53 million and generated positive adjusted EBITDA, driven by its expanded cultivation and distribution footprint, improved supply chain and production efficiencies, and enhanced consumer brand profile. Including the assets of the Southern California greenhouses and proposed Element 7 retail licenses, the combined company expects to generate full-year 2022 revenue and adjusted EBITDA of approximately $326 million and $104 million, respectively. Commenting on the acquisition, Glasshouse's co-founder and CEO, Kyle Kazan, stated, "We are pleased to partner with the BRND team as we build an even more efficient, expansive platform for our brands. Our inaugural flower brand launch last year was a tremendous success, with our BDS ranking increasing from number 63 in the state to number 2 by year-end 2020. Further, we have established a strong retail and wholesale network and best-in-class cultivation processes, all anchored by a scaled and highly efficient cost structure. I am incredibly proud of the robust operation we have built over the past 5 years, and we look forward to augmenting these strengths to further capitalize on the growing statewide and national CPG opportunity."
Okay, great, Clara. A little bit of a lengthy story, but very interesting. Next up, we're going to look at the cannabis operator looks for listing on major exchange. This is going to be a story about Green Thumb Industries. Come on back, Clara, and take it away for us again.
Cannabis operator looks for listing on major exchange, market talk. Cannabis company Green Thumb Industries is ready to list shares on a major US-based exchange, CEO Ben Kaffour tells WSJ, but proceeding would require a triggering event from policymakers. He says that could be passage of a form of a proposed federal cannabis banking law, or possibly issuance of an updated version of a 2013 DOJ memo that said it would be best for federal prosecutors to leave marijuana enforcement to local authorities in states that had legalized the substance and had strong rules for its use. Former AG Jeff Sessions rescinded that memo in 2018. Green Thumb trades on the Canadian Securities Exchange and the XBest market.
Okay, great. Next up, Virginia adult use home-growing cannabis law takes effect July 1st, 3 years ahead of schedule. That is fantastic news. We're going to let Natasha take this story for us.
Virginia adult use home-growing cannabis law to take effect July 1st, 3 years ahead of schedule. Virginia became the first state in the South to legalize adult-use cannabis, after the state's lawmakers approved Wednesday several changes to cannabis bills SB 1406 and HB 2312, proposed by Virginia Governor Ralph Northam, writes Normal. What happened? The two bills would create a statutory timeline for the legalization of the commercial cannabis market in the Old Dominion, and also enable the possession and growing of cannabis by adults. Last week, the governor proposed amendments to the legislation to allow the personal use provisions of the law to take effect on July 1, 2021, instead of January 1, 2024, which was originally passed by lawmakers. This means that, starting July 1, adult residents of Virginia can legally own up to 1 ounce of cannabis and grow up to 4 plants per household. Furthermore, the state regulators should enact provisions licensing commercial cannabis manufacture and sales by July 1, 2024, reports the outlet. Why it matters? This is an incredible victory for Virginia. Legalization will bring an end to the thousands of low-level marijuana infractions occurring annually in the Commonwealth, ending a discriminatory practice that far too often targets Virginians who are young, poor, and people of color, Normal Development Director, and the Executive Director of Virginia Normal, Jen Michelle Pedner stated. David Culver, Vice President of Global Government Relations at Canopy Growth, NASDAQ, CGC, also commented on the news, saying that pushing the law 3 years ahead of original schedule shows that state-level policymakers across the country are listening to their constituents and embracing the promise of a safe and well-regulated cannabis market. He further added that this historic momentum cannot be ignored, and responsible operators like Canopy Growth urge the Biden administration to take note, as an ever-growing majority of Americans support full federal legalization. The time to end the prohibition of cannabis and cultivate a fair and responsible industry focused on social equity and economic prosperity is now. In recent weeks, Governor Northam signed several medical cannabis measures to protect the employment rights of state-registered medical cannabis patients and to enable the manufacturing and dispensing of botanical cannabis products. Sky Bioscience targets unmet needs of glaucoma through cannabinoids. From the first research of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, in 1964 by Raphael Mechoulam, to the recent findings of the hundreds of cannabinoids that can alleviate symptoms of a plethora of illnesses and diseases, we now know cannabis is more than just weed and about getting high. Sky Bioscience Incorporated, OTCQB, SKYE, a biopharmaceutical company developing proprietary, synthetic cannabinoid-derived molecules to treat diseases with significant unmet needs, recently presented at the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference its approach to treating glaucoma through unlocking the pharmaceutical value of THC. Here's what you need to know. Glaucoma, an important unmet need. According to a report on vision by the World Health Organization, WHO, at least 2.2 billion people suffer from vision impairment or blindness, of which over 1 billion cases could have been prevented or have yet to be addressed. Glaucoma is a disease that leads to the progressive damage of retinal ganglion cells, which make up the optic nerve, and without intervention will gradually lead to irreversible blindness. In most cases, there is no pain, and the loss of vision occurs gradually from peripheral to central, and unfortunately, in many instances, people with glaucoma do not even realize it until they start experiencing some degree of permanent loss of vision. In fact, over 3 million Americans have glaucoma, but only half of those know they have it. In addition, this disease accounts for over 10 million visits to physicians per year in the United States, and the estimation of suspected cases are close to 60 million worldwide. Of irreversible blindness, and it ranks among the main reasons for the usage of medical marijuana. A light in the horizon, relevance of THC to glaucoma. The primary aim for currently used therapies is to lower intraocular pressure, IOP, to slow the progression. Yet, many patients are unresponsive or develop tolerance to medication, leaving notable unmet needs, resulting in more than 50% of patients requiring 2 or more drugs, which can increase side effects and reduce compliance. The market has lacked significant innovation, thus presenting an opportunity and need for new classes of therapy. Cannabinoids have a great impact on the endocannabinoid system, ECS. Eyes are rich with cannabinoid receptors, specifically in tissues involved in managing fluid production and drainage, as well as cells responsible for vision. Multiple independent studies have demonstrated THC's ability to lower IOP. In fact, the first report that smoking cannabis lowers IOP appeared in the early 1970s, and since then multiple human studies have validated THC's ability to lower IOP. However, there have been challenges creating a viable therapeutic with systemic delivery of THC for glaucoma because of poor, unpredictable pharmacokinetics and potential side effects. Unlocking the therapeutic value of THC. Sky's approach is designed to provide advantages over currently approved drugs and natural cannabinoids to treat glaucoma. Sky's synthetic THC prodrug, called THC-VHS, is engineered to enhance its local delivery, avoiding systemic side effects, and enhancing bioavailability in the eye. In an animal study comparing latanoprost, the glaucoma standard of care, THC-VHS was superior in a key outcome of lowering IOP. THC-VHS may also provide unique neuroprotection to prevent another key cause of vision loss, optical nerve cell death. Sky is working toward its Phase 1 study planned for H2 2021, which will primarily assess safety and tolerability, but will also measure IOP in both healthy subjects, as well as a smaller subset of patients with elevated IOP. The nature of glaucoma allows this study to be relatively short and low cost.
All right, thank you very much, Natasha. It's quite a bit of information there. Next up, we're going to look at New York marijuana stores. Lounges are at least a year away. All right, we're going to bring Mia back in for this story.
New York marijuana stores, lounges are at least a year away. By Kate King. A new law legalizing recreational marijuana in New York has planted the seeds for a multibillion-dollar industry, but it will likely be at least a year before retail stores and cannabis lounges are allowed to open their doors to customers. New York lawmakers still need to appoint a 5-member board that will create the regulatory framework needed to grow, distribute, sell, and tax recreational marijuana statewide. Based on how the process has gone in other states, it will likely be 12 to 18 months before the rules, regulations, and licensing process is complete and cannabis businesses can begin sales, said Norman Byrenbaum, New York's Director of Cannabis Programs. A market analysis completed earlier this year by Mile-Per-Gallon Consulting for the New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association estimated that residents, tourists, and commuters will support a $1.2 billion regulated cannabis market in New York by 2023. That could increase to $4.2 billion by 2027. New York lawmakers estimate the industry will eventually generate $350 million in annual tax revenue. Los Angeles-based Bespoke Financial, which lends to cannabis businesses in 11 states, is having preliminary conversations with operators interested in moving into New York, but most are waiting to find out more about the state's regulations and licensing timelines, company founder George Mantrell said. He doesn't expect the cannabis market to really start growing until the end of next year. It's going to take time, Mr. Mantrell said. The industry needs time to encounter real-world challenges and understand what their logistics are going to look like. Board members will determine how many licenses should be issued to retailers, whether production should be capped, and whether limitations should be imposed based on geographic area, Mr. Byrenbaum said. Towns and cities will also play an important role in shaping the state's cannabis market. Under the law signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo last month, municipalities have until the end of the year to decide whether they want to ban retail stores and on-premise consumption, such as at cannabis bars and lounges. Regulators will have to wait until those decisions are made before they can start issuing licenses for those types of businesses, Mr. Byrenbaum said. Businesses with liquor licenses, including bars and restaurants, won't be granted licenses to also sell cannabis under the new law. Joshua Horn, co-chair of Fox Rothschild's cannabis law practice, said he is hearing a lot of enthusiasm from potential clients eager to start selling in New York. He advises business owners interested in opening retail stores or cannabis bars to start the process now of wooing local leaders and officials to head off any "not in my backyard" objections. You have to be a partner with your local community because it's a little different than selling paper airplanes, Mr. Horn said. The new law also creates a social and economic equity program that aims to award 50% of cannabis licenses to people who have been disproportionately hurt by historical cannabis enforcement, including minorities.
All right, thank you, Mia. That covers that story pretty well. Last story for the day, we're going to look at Canopy Growth buys Supreme Cannabis Company in a $345 million deal. We're going to invite Mia back to finish this up for us. Please take this away, Mia.
Canopy Growth buys Supreme Cannabis Company. In $345 million deal, what investors need to know. Today 11:57 a.m. Eastern Time, Benzinga print. Canopy Growth Corporation, TSEX, WEED, NASDAQ, CGC is poised to merge with the Supreme Cannabis Company Incorporated, TSEX, FIRE OECQX, SPLWF. The Canadian cannabis giant said Thursday that it agreed to acquire Supreme Cannabis issued and outstanding common shares for about $435 million, $345.7 million. The deal follows Canopy Growth's purchase last week of cannabis brand Ace Valley. The Canopy Supreme transaction details. Under the terms of the agreement, each Supreme Cannabis share is worth $0.0116587 of a Canopy common share and $0.0001 in cash. Apart from shareholder and court approvals, under the Canada Business Corporations Act, the transaction is also subject to TSEC's approval and approval under the Competition Act. In addition, Supreme Cannabis shareholders will receive a 66% premium per share calculated using Supreme Cannabis and Canopy's Wednesday, April 7 closing prices on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Cassels Brock and Blackwell LLP agreed to advise Canopy on the deal. Why it matters: the acquisition will boost Canopy's brand portfolio by bringing the 7 Acres and 7 Acres Craft collective brands under its umbrella. It will also strengthen its cultivation capacities through Supreme Cannabis Hybrid Greenhouse at Kincardine, Ontario, Canopy said. Supreme Cannabis shareholders expect to benefit from Canopy's sales and distribution channels and research and development capacities. Moreover, Canopy's US CBE business will enhance expansion to the US cannabis market. Combining Supreme Cannabis with Canopy, the Canadian market leader with exposure to the United States, presents a significant value creation opportunity for both companies. We look forward to working with Canopy to complete this transaction, Beena Goldenberg, President and CEO of Supreme Cannabis, said in a statement.
All right, thank you very much, Mia. Another great story. Canopy is on a buying spree, and hey, if they can do it, go for it. All right, that's going to pretty much wrap up this episode for us here. This is the 29th episode for us. We've been at this just a little over a month now. Having a great time doing it. Hoping you enjoy it. Want to thank to all the people around the world that are listening. Got quite a list here of people that around the globe that are tuning in, which is really amazing. Glad to see that. We do have a social media platform with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Please feel free to reach out. Leave us a note. Let us know how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you. Also, please like the show. Give us a follow. Give us a subscribe. Whatever you can do for us, that would be great. We do really appreciate you guys listening. This is Johnny Fongo. You've been listening to the Johnny Fongo Show. And I want you to have a profitable day.